Alright, you probably have heard of probiotics, and you've likely heard of prebiotics.
Of course.
And maybe, just maybe, if you are a true gut geek, you've even heard of postbiotics and symbiotics. But what you know about psychobiotics? Yes, you heard that right. Psychobiotics. And despite what it may sound like, they don't make you go psycho. In fact, they aim to do the opposite. Here's what you need to know. Yo, yo, yo! What is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today we are talking about gut bacteria's ability to manipulate our mind. Yes, your mind. And how we can manipulate them to manipulate us better, aka drive more efficient cellular and metabolic operations, and thus more feeling good, refreshed, restored, rejuvenated, not only on a daily basis, but over the course of years to decades. Because as we've seen through all of the deep dives on our Microbiome 101 playlist, these little gut critters have some massive influence when it comes to that. Influence which also spans to our 5-pound mushy membrane, which is where these psychobiotics come into play. By definition, this class of manipulating compounds are considered live bacteria or prebiotics, aka bacteria food, that may improve mental health when consumed in the right amounts. And to be honest, after years of being a microbiome geek and reviewing many papers on this very channel displaying this micro-mind connection, this was the first time I've come across this term officially used. So apologies for the little bit of extra excitement here. But let's get back on track, because this powwow was not simply inspired by me learning a new word. It was inspired by some new data that's hit the scientific streets, bringing novel insights to this very connection. As researchers out of University College Cork, great name, in Ireland, discovered through a series of mouse models that there is a clear link between an organism's gut microbiota and how their brain responds to stress throughout the day. Finding that these gut microbes not only have a critical impact on the natural circadian modulation of stress hormones, but that a depleted microbiome with a leaky gut wall, two happenings which often come as a package, results with a disruption in the brain's core circadian system, in particular its key stress regulating system, the HPA axis, or hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, making it overreactive and irregular. Oh. And the significance of this may make a little more sense when I remind you that low-dose chronic stress is one of the biggest longevity liabilities that we have, mainly because glucocorticoids or stress molecules such as the hormone cortisol are produced when that aforementioned HPA axis becomes activated, and when working properly follows a natural circadian rhythm. In some cases, as discussed here and other videos which I will link below, being critical for optimal biological function and longevity. However, and this is a big however, more often than not, this system isn't in optimal alignment. And that can be very much attributed to our modern day Western lifestyle, which for the average person include habits that promote a depleted, inflammation-inducing microbiome, throwing stress hormone signaling all out of whack, and essentially upregulating it to the point of chronic overactivity. And you may be asking, why is this such a big deal? It's just a little stress. Who cares? Well, because this chronic disruption has been linked to metabolic dysfunction, sleep impairment, chronic inflammation, cognitive problems, anxiety, depression, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. But that's not all. More stress has been linked to increased cravings for ultra-processed, energy-dense, nutrient-scarce foods, a connection which we explore here, which feeds into and cultivates an even more disrupted microbiome, along with metabolic dysfunction, which keeps this vicious cycle fueled and progressively getting worse. Yikes is right. However, there's always multiple sides to the metabolic story. Because as you probably know, modern research has established a strong connection between gut health and the performance of one's brain, linking the habits which enhance one to also improving the other. For example, one study out of the University of Illinois displayed how gut microbes can actually reduce brain fog through their indirect modulation of inflammation, observing how foods high in dietary fibers increase the communities of health-promoting bacteria in the gut, and as a byproduct, increase the output of beneficial metabolites, specifically the short-chain fatty acid butyrate, which traverses the gut wall and blood-brain barrier to inhibit inflammation, all leading to improved symptoms of brain fog. Pretty cool, I know. And if we circle back to the study we highlighted earlier, 3 of the key regions in the brain which seem to be impacted the most by this gut dysregulation were the critical blood-brain barrier, which regulates what gets in and out of the brain, kind of important, the amygdala, aka the fear, anger, and emotional center of the brain, and the hippocampus, aka the learning and memory hub within the brain, providing some potential explanations for the observed elevations in stress. Another great example of this is one we discussed in a recent deep dive here, where researchers found that one of the underlying drivers of being a quote-unquote more resilient person was having a healthy metabolite producing community of gut microbes accompanied by a strong gut wall and low inflammation. Kind of making you think, isn't it? Which, ironically, probably is easier to do if your gut's in a good place. So, let's explore how we can get there faster, aka psychobiotic it up. And a good place to start is probably by identifying what we ideally want, which, based on our current scientific knowledge, which is always evolving, is a good community of beneficial metabolite producing microbes, a strong gut wall, to make sure we don't overactivate the immune system and cause what we don't want, such as chronic inflammation, along with less useless stress, aka that stress that is triggered by those overreactions we tend to have in this 24/7 go, go, go world. All right, so I think that's a pretty good list to start. Now, here's the good and bad news. The reality is, it is the same collection of habits which tend to make or break our cellular, metabolic, and microbial health. Meaning, a lifestyle filled with the beneficial ones tend to place all of the above in a position to thrive, while the more common modern Western norms, the 24/7 ultra-processed eating, the indoor sedentary behavior, chemicals and pharmaceuticals galore, and chronically deprived disaligned sleep, do the opposite. So let's focus in on some things that will cultivate a beneficial, thriving environment within that controls inflammation, limits stress, and promotes organ system rest, rejuvenation, and detoxification. Starting with the GOAT of habits for cellular and metabolic efficiency, and one of the best ways to control both stress and inflammation, high-quality circadian aligned sleep. And here's why. Sleep is the period where your organs rest, regenerate, and ramp up detoxification pathways, especially in the brain. And in doing so, reduce inflammation and enhance cognition. While chronic lack of sleep has been shown to cause hormone imbalances, oxidative stress, decreased levels of antioxidants, and increase permeability of the gut, aka leakiness. So if you stay up scrolling all night, you are putting your biology in a severe disadvantage. Period. End of story. And now that you're awake on the topic, let's move on. Next, we have the most enjoyable intervention on the list, food, of which can become a pretty major liability relatively quickly, as the ultra-processed Western diet is a one-way ticket to a chronically inflamed internal environment, causing both internal cellular dysfunction and gut-derived microbiome dysfunction. Not a great combo. While, on the flip side, real, whole, organic, wild, pasture-raised options eaten in strategic 10-hour or less daily feeding windows do the exact opposite. Remember, what you eat, your microbes eat, with the ultra-processed, high-fat, high-sugar options typically creating the ideal environment for nefarious gut wall depleting microbes to prosper. In addition, many phytonutrients and healthy fats found in high-quality plant and animal products not only fight inflammation and the diseases of metabolic syndrome, but stimulate the dilation and widening of blood vessels, reducing stress in the process. The food connection is real, which brings us to what some would call their least enjoyable intervention on the list: the moving of the badonkadonk. Because ironically, one of the best ways to prevent inflammation is by performing acute activities that cause it. Gotta love biology. A byproduct of moving your body is the release of a number of bioactive compounds which reduce inflammation, dilate blood vessels, and relieve stress. Exercise also plays a role in influencing the activity and communities of our microbes within, confirming once again that movement is in fact medicine. So make sure you get some. A good goal to aim for is exercising at 65 to 85% max heart rate for 30 to 45 minutes, 5 to 6 times a week. But whatever you do, just find a way to get started. We talk a lot about how to do this with strategies such as habit stacking in other videos, which I will link below. Finally, other beneficial tools in the toolbox include grounding and earthing, which is the practice of reconnecting electrically with the earth. This has been shown to neutralize inflammatory free radicals and improve blood flow. Might I add, make your microbiome, especially your skin microbiome, more diverse. 20 minutes a day of good outdoor grounding time is a good minimum to strive for. Then we have nasal breathing, as simply breathing through your nose increases the secretion of nitric oxide, which dilates blood vessels, reduces stress, and improves cardiovascular function. It also filters and humidifies your air, optimizing it for absorption. You have it for a reason, not just to pick it, so use it. And lastly, proactive stress management practices such as breath work, meditation, and mindfulness. All of these have shown to drastically reduce sympathetic nervous system activation, stress, and inflammation. Now, this list is certainly not an end-all be-all of interventions you can deploy to improve your odds, likelihood, and probability of cellular and metabolic efficiency, and thus a healthy gut-brain stress balance. But it does provide some super solid baselines that will likely get you 85% of the way there, which if you carry out will have you cellularly vibing in the top 5 percentile of intelligent walking apes on this beautiful floating rock. But more importantly, feeling how you are capable of feeling each and every damn day. Ironically, doing it by creating your own psychobiotics and manipulating the manipulators. Because remember, happy microbes equals happy you. As long as they're beneficial microbes, that is. So, get on manipulating.